there, I'm Amy.Connell. Welcome to Graced Health, the podcast for women who want simple and grace-filled ways to take care of themselves and enjoy a little chocolate. I'm a certified personal trainer and nutrition coach who wants you to know your eating, movement, and body don't have to be perfect. You just need to be able to do what you're called to do. Throughout the month of December, I'm doing something a little different. I am spending time over on Instagram going live with 8 honorable mentions as an addendum to my book, Your Worthy Body. So if you have been with me for a while, you know that I just released a book called Your Worthy Body, Find Freedom and Health by Breaking All the Rules in November. And in it, it has 22 rules to break. These are rules we've possibly and probably heard about our health that oftentimes don't necessarily motivate us or inspire us in the way that they are intended to. And in fact, they can create shame surrounding our health. And so I am trying to break this mindset, change our mindset about our body, our food, our movement, how they all work together. I'm offering these addendums live on Instagram, but then I wanted to take them and give them to you because I know some of my community, and this may include you, only connect here through your ears, through podcasts. And I know that because that's how I am with a lot of the people I like to connect with. I don't necessarily go back and forth on Instagram or Facebook or certainly not Twitter. I'm hardly ever over there, but I love connecting on the podcast. So I am doing what I call being kind to my future self. And I wanted to continue showing up in December. And I'm also wanting to ease up a little bit in my own responsibilities and my output. So for the month of December, I am taking these Instagram lives and replaying them here on the podcast. Of course, if you have not gotten your copy of Your Worthy Body, then I have a link in the show notes below. You can certainly go get that. And let me tell you, get one for your sisters, get one for your Bible study friends, get one for your book club friends, get one for the girls you go out to dinner with, because this is who it is for. It is for the sisterhood of women who are ready to change their mindset. Okay, let's jump in. Hey there. First of all, I need to do like a little confessions of. I have been showing up on here like with makeup and hair. And if you can see me on Instagram, if you're watching this hair is still wet. And up until like an hour ago, sweaty gym clothes, no makeup, which is kind of my standard uniform. Like this is the uniform that I go, that I wear to work. So I feel like I need to tell you this. I don't know why, but somehow this just kind of works into my day of when I typically shower, but I don't always shower this early. Anyway, that's just full disclosures. Why I need to tell you that, I don't know, but I do still have wet hair and it is warm and humid here in Houston today. And I just don't even bother with trying to get my hair the other way that I wear it. It's all curly today because I'm like, why not? It's just going to curl up anyway. But that's not what we're here to talk about. If you are just joining me or just kind of starting back into this series of honorable mentions, make sure you go back to the previous ones, whether you are listening on the podcast or watching on Instagram, and just kind of get caught up to date. So again, I am doing honorable mentions of rules to break that did not make it into my book, but I think are worth mentioning. So we talked about on Monday, why have I forgotten already what we talked about? Let me see my notes. We talked about, don't tell people your plan, show them your results. And we have talked about I'll gain weight if I don't exercise. Yeah, not really. Yesterday I mentioned, or we discussed, don't quit. And actually, maybe it's not quitting. Maybe it's pivoting. You can go back and listen. I'm not going to recap all of that. Today, I wanted to discuss something that is said often this time of year. And I want to start this from a space of grace and a space of a non-shaming space. I don't want it to feel that way, but what I want to do is challenge you to think about this period of time differently. We all know that between Thanksgiving, if you're in the States, and Christmas or really New Year's, it can be wheels off. We have events, and thank goodness. I mean, some of us are getting back into events or, dinner parties or whatever. We've got more things going on. We have more celebrations, and the people are in, and it's like they're visiting home, and oh, okay, well, let's go out. And it's really easy to say, I'm just going to put everything aside and I'll start in January, or I'll start back in January. I would love for us to change that on and off mentality. And I admit I definitely can struggle with this myself. So again, just like every other rule in the book, these are things, this is part of my journey. But what I have found is staying, I don't want to say on track, but keeping a focus of a general perspective of just fueling myself well, because that's always my problem, and moving in a way that is right for me in this season will really help set me up for the time when I want to get more focused. I talk in my book about how, in January, we buckle down. And in fact, I'm like making plans with friends because I'm like, we don't go out to dinner in January. We have no social calendar in January because that's just the way that we work. But that also doesn't mean that I'm just throwing everything out the window in December. Again, it's all covered in grace. So I want to give you a couple things to think about. Number one, backing off for a season is just fine. If you listened to yesterday's or the previous episode with Don't Stop, we talked about pivoting. We talked about the benefit of what's called periodization. So I want you to go back and listen to that. But it is okay if you take whatever you are normally doing and you're like, I don't know that this is what this is. I'm not going to do this. That's okay. And that might be your exercise, or that might be your food. And it might be that you say, you know what, this is the season that I'm making 2 batches of fudge, and we're just going to have a piece of fudge every night, and I'm not going to in January. So I'm okay with that. And again, this is not about me. This is about you figuring out what is best for you and what will prime you best for your days. But I do think it's important to recognize we can back off, but that we don't just totally throw everything out the window. I used to teach a format of exercise, and they would really, when I was the master trainer, when I was getting trained to teach this format, he would really challenge us to challenge our participants, tell them they can slow down, but not stop. And I think that's a good thing to remember in our eating too. I mean, yes, absolutely in our fitness, but in our eating, we can slow down the, however it is that we normally do, but let's not completely stop it. Let's not have that I'm on or I'm off mentality, because that's just going to, I just think the cumulative effect of that is really going to hurt us when we decide to turn it on if we've been off, because all of the extra stuff that we may consume when we are off. And I'm going to assume, this is something I'm going to assume because this is my story and it may not be yours, but my assumption is that it's not consumed in the right amounts or the right amount for you. So when I eat something, it's probably like, if it's not good, then I'm probably going to be eating more than I need because it's highly palatable food. I did a whole podcast episode on palatability, and that's that high sugar, high salts, highly refined. And that makes that like increases our taste buds. And then we just eat way too much of it because it's not filling. It doesn't have any of the good stuff like the fiber and the nutrients and all of that kind of stuff. Anyway, the cumulative effect of that is going to leave us inflamed. It's going to leave us, inflammation is definitely a big one. It's going to leave us feeling like, well, now I have to really just buckle down, and I have to exercise all of this off. Please don't do that, by the way. That's another chapter, but that's in the chapter, or that's in the book. That is a chapter. I have to exercise all of this off. I have to starve myself because I ate way too much. And then you're just setting yourself up for I don't want to say failure, but having some pretty significant challenges when you do. Whereas if we slow down and don't stop and give ourselves some grace, but don't just totally throw in the towel, then we won't get to that point where we feel like we have to overdo it in either the exercising or the eating or however, whatever that is for you. In addition, when I talk about being inflamed, guess what happens when we start exercising a lot? Exercising will naturally cause some inflammation, which is good. Some inflammation is good, but that's exercise induced. And then your body goes through and it repairs itself. Well, if we walk in an inflamed state because we haven't been fueling ourselves well, and because we've been having a lot of sugar and wine and all the things that, I love, then that really sets us up to get injured. And more than anything, what I don't want to happen is for you to enter into the season and say, I am going all in and we're going to do this and I'm going to eat all of this plan and I'm going to exercise this way. And 3 weeks later, you're injured because you haven't continued moving and you haven't baby stepped into it, or your eating was not exactly how you would want it to be. And then again, all of that inflammation really creates a perfect storm for getting injured. And I so desperately don't want you to be injured, because this is the first year, 2021. This is the first year I'm finishing out the year without getting injured. I have, because I've overdone it. And I'm not saying I've always been injured in January, but it's, just overdoing it and not listening to my body and not taking time off. So if you need a break from your movement, if you need a break from your eating, that's great. Take a break, but don't completely throw it out the window. Figure out what is a sustainable way and a realistic way that I can eat differently now or move differently. And again, go back and listen to yesterday's on Don't Quit. But what is a way that I can do that and still enjoy the season and still enjoy my time when my friends come in town, or when I see my family, or whatever that manifests in your world, but where we're not just completely throwing everything out the window, because then we're going to go the other way and the pendulum is going to swing the other way in January. And I really hope that makes sense. And the final thing that I would encourage you to do is just cover yourself in grace as you're going about the season. It's a busy season. I am a Jesus follower. So one of the things that I want to make sure I'm doing is not losing sight of, and I know this is so overused, but the reason for the season, and lose sight of the reason that we are celebrating the birth of Jesus. And, we can celebrate in a lot of different ways, and that doesn't always have to include overabundance of everything, of all the things. Anyway, I hope that makes sense. And by the way, if any of these resonate with you, I would be honored if you shared this or shared the podcast with a friend. You can take this, you can share it to your story. These are all public, and just kind of get the word out for that grace-based health. My podcast covers all things physical health, mental health, spiritual health. And I just I would love to get this out, because I think that we are ready. We are primed. We are ready for a different way of thinking about things. Oh, I'm loving this here on Instagram. Thank you so much. It says, love your podcast. I've been listening to you for several months and your information is great. Hashtag covering myself in grace. Yes. That's what we all need to do. We should do that. We should start tagging everything that. All right, you guys, I'll sign off like I do on my podcast. That's all for today. Go out there and have a grace day.